Welcome everyone to the Stefanini webinar about smart manufacturing. This webinar will be presented today without mouth masks by Leonardo Vieira, our Digital Industry Director and Subject Matter Expert, and myself, Rick de Muldermeester, Sales VP at Stefanini EMEA. I'm pleased to share with you that this session will also be recorded and that questions can be raised by chat at the end of our webinar. Smart manufacturing is still a quite young concept. It's actually less than 10 years, but I'm sure that most of you will agree that Industry 4.0 and smart manufacturing have made organizations more agile and flexible. And during these pandemic times, companies who can answer more quickly to market changes have a strategic advantage. So we are convinced that organizations who embedded or implemented smart manufacturing have that strategic advantage today. Actually, it is something we noticed within our customer base, and we will talk about examples later in our presentation. When we go to the next slide, you will notice that the presentation is split in three parts. It's the use of the magnifying glass. It is the chain weakest link, and Sutta platform. With these three metaphors, Stefanini wants to take you through the conversation of today. In the first chapter, the use of the magnifying glass, Leo will have a short journey with us and guide us towards the situation of smart manufacturing as it is today, including VUCA and the relation with the current COVID pandemic situation. In the second chapter, the change weakest link, we will reveal the most fragile element in our manufacturing space in order to take the right business decisions. And in the third and last chapter, Iron Man, Sutta platform, we will explain to you the best way to start up or ramp up smart manufacturing in your organization, giving some guidelines based on current customers who are already engaged in our approach. I believe, Leo, the floor is yours.
Good, thank you, Rick. So let's go, right away to the first topic. Yeah, so the use of magnifying glass. So I just took a magnifying glass here just to help us take a close look on so how things have been, progressing and where we are now, right? So if you go to the internet, you can see several similar definitions, right? Since that we are in the fourth revolution, this is how we are today, and let's say we didn't pass through the fourth revolution yet, Rick. It's really happening, right? And we are in the middle of it, right? So most of the terms or most of the pictures, when you go to, for example, Google Images and you type there Industry 4.0, for example, you will see images like that, right? So it was just a minute here. Okay. I'm just fixing the tail here. So if you see, it was a concept introduced in 2011, right? So in the Hanover Fair, and by Germany, and the idea was to have a more efficient process through robotization, optimization, and cyber systems, right? But actually, if you go deeply on the reasons for that, you see that it's not really about technology. It's really about the overall business efficiency, right? So the real justification to have all that, automation is really to boost the business performance at the end of the day, right? And if you go back to the 2011 situation, you see that China was growing very fast, and they were kind of beating most of the companies, including all the Germany's at that time. And Industry 5.0 was a response for that. And this is very important for us to keep in mind. That is really not, a technology revolution. It is a reason to have better results, right?
Yep.
So, you know the term, right, Rick? VUCA word.
Well, it's not the abbreviation of my favorite football club, that's for sure. But yes, I do know the term. It stands for volatility, I believe, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. Is that correct, Leo?
Yeah, it's the way that our world, and less at least 5 or 10 years, it's how our world is being described, right? So things are happening very fast. We are widely in so many different ways connected with each other in a global way. So VUCA is a term that it's kind of defining us nowadays. The point is, we just recently, 4 months ago, had a new layer for that, whole situation, which is the COVID, right? So COVID brought even more volatility because you see a lot of customers with very high disturbance on their demand, right? On their market. So we had more uncertainty, so less ability to predict because this situation we don't have anything compared to that in the human being before, and even more complex situation because a global thing is affecting even local and even small business, right? And more ambiguity because we are also everybody's saying we are going to have a new normal, but those new normal really brings us to the same consuming habits. So those facts they are already impacting manufacturing space. Of course, it is impacting our lives overall, but especially for the manufacturing space, is impacting a lot. So it's even more difficult, right? And let's go back to our first slides. So if you think that Industry 4.0 is something that is preparing or giving the companies more agility, more flexibility, more speed to market, you can. So I'm sure, and I have been talking to many customers. All of them were written by the situation, but I'm sure that those ones that was kind of in a journey for Industry 4.0, they were even more prepared to respond to the situation, right? So more flexible.
Yep.
More flexible to meet the change, and even so we saw people trying to keep the business alive at the end of the day, or even just limiting the situation or the damage that we have there, right?
Yeah, I think, Leo, we also have a good example here within our customer base with the world's most famous sport brand, who had to really adjust themselves also during the pandemic crisis. Because during the lockdown, they saw that their retail chain had to close down in several regions worldwide. And they also noticed actually a huge shift of revenue coming in through their web shop. So they had to completely remodel their warehousing and delivery processes, and that for sure in order to cope with this new form of demand. and we really believe that the smart manufacturing attitude helped them in achieving this change and to adjusting to this new reality. So I think this was a good, I believe, a good example of what COVID did with one of our, let's say, bigger customers. Yeah. So thanks, Leo, for this first chapter. I think my takeaway is clearly the fact that Industry 4.0 is not about technology. It's about business efficiency. And in the second chapter about the weakest link, the change weakest link, we will reveal to you the most fragile element in manufacturing space in order to take the right business decisions. So over to you, Leo.
Yeah. So and in the same mindset, so people were reporting to us the lack of visibility across the whole business, right? So this is really where we see so they was not in ability to take fast decisions because they didn't know what happened, right? So like with simple questions, if you think about which products and where I should produce them, right? So if you go back to March or April situation, we had the ports, the Chinese ports, and everything closed, right? So, for example, how can I produce my product without a raw material, for example? And so, which are my inventory levels? How can I distribute that? So, in terms of distribution, for example, even their suppliers might be facing the same situation, the same difficulties, right? And they not even know about that. So that's why we, in our approach, we recommend and we always try to show customers that there's a way to overcome that kind of situation, and this is always through data, right? As much as you take decisions based on data, more ability you have to really have concrete and robust decisions in the future, right? So to be able to take decisions around the data, we always look to customers' maturity. And the maturity is not for every single point of data, but it's for every single critical point of decision, right? For every single point of decision, you have to have a very clear level of maturity you want to give for your company. For example, you cannot bring a predictive model without even measure kind of a variable, for example, right? So, and then let me go pass through very quickly for those stages, which means descriptives is what you are really measuring is the temperature. So you should have an instrument there and taking, right? So the analytic level is why and monitoring that in a organized way. So the automatic is really automate the decision for those things that are repetitive and that always happen, so you can really have something automatic on top of that. The predictive is, as the name say, so it's something that based on the history, you have models and you can establish some predictions that help you to predict the future. And the prescriptive level is based on the prediction that you did. You take proactive actions to prevent that thing to happen as was predicted, right? So depending on the type of KPI you have and depending on the type of decision you have, we can help you, the customers, trace that line down and help them identify what needs to be done in terms of data journey. So, and this is our definition. So we call bias-based organization, which means most of the companies have KPIs and most of them take operational decisions. The point here is the operational decisions are in some sort based on some sort of data, and no matter if it is formal or informal. Some customers have some systems to manage some part of the business, others don't. So this is the operational decisions level, and then you have the data layer, let's say, right? So you can have the data lake or the data lake level, which is where your data is sitting. And the decision layer is really the models that are built on top of your databases, let's say, or the data layer. And then the decision processes linked between the decision layer and the operational decisions that you have to make. In a bias-based organization, what happens is most of those things made here is based on people experience or people or even the way they do it before. That's why in the COVID, people lose visibility, because most of the patterns or most of the things that were normally established or normally was there, they were not anymore, right? So, and then the conclusion could not be done, or the decision could not be done because of that, right? So to kind of address that issue, what do? We kind of study that operational decision and try to identify in the customer's data level, what is the data available to really go and link that with a proper data lake, and then having the models developed and really implementing the digital solutions to help the customer make those decisions in a more efficient way. So, and again, people might be asking, hey, those guys are solution or service or solution or technology company. Why they are saying technology is not important? Well, so technology is very important, but it's not the key, right? So first of all, you have to identify the business objectives and then apply the technology. So at that moment, at the moment 5, that technology take place, right? For example, I can give you 3 examples of different ways to control inventory, right? So let's take, for example, these are images from some of the solutions that we have been implementing. And let's take this steel coils inventory, for example. So those coils are not censored. They have a barcode to identify each one, but we have a lifter here that store those positions. So we have an intelligent system that can, by the movements and by the movements that they are making with the coils, we can control the exact position for each steel coil, right? So let me take another one here. Oops. Yeah. So if you see, this is another example of control inventory. This is a real-time geopositioning for a forklift, which is giving you 15 centimeters precision on position. So we can identify with a very low level or very low quantity of antennas, we can give real-time position for a mobile equipment, right? And This is another one, which is really a autonomous drone who flies over those piles to in a flight, on the flight, having, and this image below, having the 3D mapping of the inventory for the fertilizers in this case. So if you see here, this is the result of the drone flight. And at the end of the day, if we just took out all the roofs, walls, and everything, we have the volume for the fertilizer piles with kind of 99% accuracy, right? So depending on the challenge and depending on the type of problem or business objective, we can have the technology applied in a different way and leveraging different infrastructure or technology to meet those objectives, right? Does that make sense to you, Rick?
It does, yeah. Good examples, thanks.
So, and then I think we.
Thank you, Leo. I think you took 3 examples. I know we have many more, but I would say my takeaway here on the second chapter is that, let's say, the lack of visibility avoids companies to take the right business decisions, and also that, as you mentioned, in some organizations, there is no robust connection between the data process and the KPI results. And as such, the decision making is too much based on people experience and less on objective data. So I think that's a good you gave a good view on that. I would say on the third and last chapter, we will explain the best way to start or to ramp up smart manufacturing in your organization, and giving some guidelines based on the current customers who already are engaged in our approach. Yeah? So in order to do so, Leo, we make a little trip to famous movie Iron Man. What is it all about? I'm not so familiar with it.
I'm a great fan of Marvel movies. So do you like them? Do you know Iron Man, Rick?
Of course, I know a little bit, but I'm probably not that much as a fan as you are. Yeah.
Yeah. No, actually, it's just to reflect because nowadays when you talk about innovation, it's kind of a buzzword, right? It's being a hashtag, and so if we take all those kind of lights on it and say, let's really understand why we have to apply innovation in manufacturing. So I brought this example on Iron Man because it reflects the way we understand it should be done, and the way 25 years from now we have 25 years back we have seen innovation being applied to manufacturing, right? So I'm very comfortable to say that because if you take the example of the drone, so that industry never used such technology, and we were kind of the first ones making that application there. So going back to Iron Man, this guy invented a weapon or a suit based on a very, let's say, a very original need. What that was, escaped from a cave that was kept in jail in that case, right? So he started making his first, let's say, prototype, and all the principles are there, and he took all the knowledge and all the experimentation that he did in the first prototype, and the prototype was really completely destroyed in this case. I'm not saying everything in manufacturing needs to have that kind of approach, but to give an example, then from that knowledge, the guy was have an idea, and he started to implement new things. So he started with the hand thing up to the suite up platform, which is something that as he walks, all the weapons, all the parts of the suite is being implemented online and implemented in real time, so he can have a very industry 4.0 type of implementation for his suite, right? So this is the way we see that evolution happening, right? So, and then what we really believe is that innovation is really bring the human creativity, which is something natural from the human being, to be applied to generate real business results, right? So understand your business objective, apply creativity, create an innovation, and then bring the results, the business results to the table, right? And to be able to do that, there is no innovation. So you cannot see any kind of innovation is done without experimenting, right? So without making some, proof of concepts, growing that proof of concept for a pilot, and then over the pilot, apply that scale up discipline to make the solutions growing faster, right? And again, most of the people will say, hey, manufacturing is a very conservative and a very in a very square environment, but that actually is not. You see in the COVID, just some months back, people was keeping the business running in a in very different ways, right? So in very keeping things remotely. So the creativity is there, definitely, right? So we just need to give them some space and some opportunities to grow over the creativity. So in that sense, what I believe is that we can apply Industry 4.0 concepts in the manufacturing space faster if the manufacturing space are more open for new things or new or different ways to really do things that is done nowadays. And so how we can help that? How we can support our customer in that journey? So we have a structured journey, and this was built over the time, over the experience that we have, and to show or to help customers accelerate that process. So let me give you a quick trip on that. So first of all, let's say in last 15 to 20 years, you're seeing RFPs with a very specific and a very detailed technical specification, right? So that doesn't happen anymore. So most of the things are happening so fast, and we have to develop things on the, let's say, on the fly, right? So we are replacing long-term plans to long-term vision, right? So from the vision, then you establish a way to go to a roadmap or a plan after that, but it has to have in a more agile way. So the discovery journey will put together that vision, the business objective, and the current state. So we do that in a very agile way. Then we come up with what we call digital roadmap, which is really a roadmap, a plan on how to go, how to achieve my objective, but it's not something, unchangeable, or it's not written in stone. It's really something very dynamic, right? And then we go to the roadmap execution, which is really implementing the projects that we have in the digital roadmap. As those projects succeed, we go to the scale-up process. And the most important step on this journey, Rick, is the feedback process. because from the learnings you have from the execution and from the scale up process, you make influence on the digital roadmap again and kind of guide them to correct the process to go to your final objective at the end of the day, right? So
Okay.
does make sense to you?
Yep.
So and then again, we are being affected by this situation as well, right? So we are changing the way we do things, and we are experiencing some new things, and we are ready to make and really we are already making some new ways to make relationship with our customers. So for example, we are having a very strong stress on our nearshore model, right? So which means you don't necessarily need 100% of your staff physically present in the customer facilities, right? So you can leverage maybe a lower cost center, or something that you deliver the same quality of the delivery. Design thinking sections, which is something that we usually do presentially. Now we are doing that 100% remote, so it's been working awesome. It's working very well. Remote performance monitoring, so establishing secure connection with customer sites and having automation specialists, process specialists, IT specialists remotely helping customers to monitor that. And the virtual future support. So just last 2 weeks ago, we did a full commissioning, 100% of virtual. So nobody from our side was in the customer, and we were implementing optimization system for a process, and was it was a very successful implementation in that case, right? And then having more, our solutions more as a service than in a project-based type of solution. So those are some of the examples that we are making with our offerings right now, right? So it is again another metaphor, right? So I like to use some metaphors. Those collaboration doors just need to have some trust, right? So we have to establish some trust relationships with customers, and we believe we can achieve much better results even over this situation that we are passing through, right? So that's it.
Okay, Leo, thank you very much. We have around, we got around 35 minutes for this webinar, and so we have still 5 to 10 minutes for questions. So I know that quite a number of people are attending the session, so I would say don't hesitate to send any questions. You can do that by using the chat version of the chat functionality here in this application.
Yeah, I received a question here, Rick.
Okay.
It is around the prescriptive decisions, right? So can you give some examples of prescriptive decisions? So let's say
Leo, maybe before you answer, I remember you telling me one day that those prescriptive decisions are, let's say, the most expensive ones. Is that correct?
Yeah, of course, and it's usually right, Rick, because you have to have models and you have to apply analytics sometimes, and maybe it's not more expensive, but that at least is more effort. It's more effort to put that in place, right? So I try to give for this person just send a question, a very simple example, which is let's say you have a furnace and you, based on the product quality, you you have a prediction that based on the quality, the temperature will raise very fast, right? And you reach a point that is not, it's not easy to handle by the furnace. What the prescriptive action could be is for in an automatic way, the system can decide to lower down the gas injection to help the temperature go down, right? So it's a prescriptive action based on a predictive situation that you just got in your system, right? I hope that clarifies the question. So let's see if we have any other question here.
Maybe Leo, I have a kind of question about the nuclear submarine that we are involved in Brazil, and the IoT part of it. Is there anything you can share with us about that?
Yeah, actually, that's a project that we are doing with a French company. This French company is the IP owner of the solution, right? So the nuclear submarine. And then what is happening now, that knowledge is being transferred to us, and we are going to implement the full automation of the nuclear submarine with the most modern technology that we can have, right? So military things are very classified, so we don't have much to share. But the thing is, we have a project working even in a nuclear submarine. So we used to use that joke, Rick. So if you have doubts that we can do something, just see that example. We are doing in a nuclear submarine. So it's like a joke.
Okay, clear.
So let's see. Yeah, it seems we don't have any much questions.
No.
Okay,
so I guess then I would like then to thank everybody for attending the session, and we hope to see you soon in any future Stefanini webinars. Thank you all. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye, Lynn. Bye bye.